more sense to me now. If you're failing to plan, then you're planning to fail. So either ways, you're making a plan. So are you planning consciously to prepare your kids against a predator, or you're just going to leave them to walk through life without showing them the telltale signs of someone that might just be out to groom them and take advantage of them? This is a rampant thing. We're seeing spiritual leaders, we're seeing coaches, we're seeing instructors in dance classes, we're seeing swimming instructors, we're seeing martial arts teachers world over just taking advantage of children. Teachers in classrooms, proprietors in schools and everything, principals in institutions everywhere, taking advantage of young people, and this can be avoided. How are you preparing your kids to avoid this attack on their innocence? Yes, it's an attack on their innocence. It's an attack on the cradle. They are cradle snatchers. Let's call them what they are. There are laws that protect your children. There are laws that protect you as a parent. Do not be afraid when these people have perpetrated this act, and because of the power or whatsoever they have in the society, they are threatening you to say, hey, if you say anything, we will come for you. There are laws that protect you, and you need to start to take note. In the course of today's episode, I will be sharing some facts and details to prepare your children of all ages, from as young as toddlers to teenagers. I'll give you things that are researched that can help you prepare them for these attacks. And these are things that I'm I'm starting to teach my own daughter. These are simple things that I'm starting to do with my children at home. Now, I'm talking about my own daughter and even kids that are around me, my nieces and my nephews. These are conversations that we must have as adults that care about the innocence of our children. These are things that we must do to protect them in a world that is fast derailing. And at Super FM 92.7, we make it our culture to talk about the family dynamics, to make sure that nothing is broken in the lives of our children, because we understand that if you raise right children, we are raising a better nation, and we can be great for it, and our children could go on to influence and change the world for positivity. Now, today's Family Matters is continuing from yesterday's episode, where we are preparing our children for predators on the prowl. Stay tuned. I'll be going on a quick breather. When I come back from that one, I definitely will be bringing you up to speed to some things that you need to know as a parent to prepare your kids for the predators that are lurking all around the places where they're just supposed to have fun or be kids. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Sisters, call everybody in your neighborhood who has a young child right now. You see that talk about kilomodimo, that's Yoruba for what do children know. I don't want to spoil my child. Let me not start telling my child all these type of things that will make them now start doing certain things. Let me tell you something. The people who are looking to take advantage of your children don't care what age they are. I saw a very heartbreaking story that broke recently of a child who was abused. The child was 3 years old, and was abused, and the child they later lost the child, and it just was a story that I saw on social media, and the caption on that story read, "What was she wearing?" Now, our society has made a lot of excuses for people who abuse other people sexually. When we're talking rape, statutory rape and the likes, you hear questions like, waiting you go do for a house, why you self wear that kind of cloth? These are very, very, quote unquote, for me, annoying conversations. When you ask, yes, there is need for decency. The conversation around decency is one that we will start to talk about in the nearest future. We will have an extensive conversation on decency. But when it comes to making excuses for people who, because of their their position in society, because you're a leader in a youth group, you're a leader and you're responsible for a lot of young females and males and teenagers and the likes, impressionable people, and you take advantage of them. And the first question people are asking is, what did you go and do in that person's house? Let me say something to you. The fact that parents trust people means children would trust them. And the fact that society trusts people and say, oh, this person is a leader in church, or is a leader in the mosque, or is a leader here or there, or is someone that we know has been training young people in this act. He's a music teacher, he's a choir master, he's a vocal coach, he teaches musical instruments, or she teaches this or that. This is not something that is tethered to any gender. People who abuse young people are from different genders, male and female. So it is not to say, oh, it is men that do it or it is women. This is not a gender war. I must say that. This is not a gender war. It is a conversation that spans to the females as much as it spans across the males. If you are out there and you have been taking advantage of young people, I want you to know that these people are going to get a voice after this, and you will be reported and you will be investigated, and we will get justice. I'm saying that to you so that you can stop it and stop abusing our young people. But moving away from the abuse and talking about decency, people would say, why did you wear that? Why did you go and visit a man at home? Well, why did you go and visit this person at home? This is just us making excuses and not fighting for justice, not fighting for the people whose voices have been muffled because of how society has continued to empower this act by victim blaming. That is something we will talk about another day. But right now, my people, we're talking about preparing your kids, preparing your toddlers, preparing your children in primary school, preparing your children in secondary school, preparing your young school leavers against people who abuse them. What made us talk about this yesterday was the fact that there was a news that broke about a young man, a 14-year-old boy who was preparing for his WAEC. His parents had recently moved from Ibadan to Kano, and then a teacher who was supposed to be helping him prepare for his WAEC, who was supposed to give him classes twice every week, increased it to 4 times a week for the same cost his parents were paying, and started abusing this young man. The young man went from being very bright and very, very, being very, very, expressive, to becoming very recluse and quiet, and wasn't interested in a lot of things that were happening around him. Now, let me say this to you, that when this started happening, the mother noticed, but they didn't pay so much attention. They didn't have a conversation, and this brings us to why we need to do some of the things we're talking about today, which is building trust in ourselves with our kids. Let your kids trust you enough to say anything to you. Let your kids trust you enough to be able to have all sorts of conversations with you, whether it's peer pressure in school, to do drugs, or to join a gang, or to even start to indulge in certain acts that are not for their age. I think we must do the due diligence of teaching children of all ages to avoid sexual molestation, and it involves a combination of age-appropriate education. I am saying this based on the fact that your children would understand certain things based on their age. So you must be able to teach age-appropriate education and boundaries, clear boundaries, and creating an open and trusting environment where children feel safe to speak up. And I'll be giving a few guidelines before we go on the break. I'll be giving a few guidelines, and then I'll also open the phone lines so we can get to interact. And maybe parents out there who are already starting to teach some of these things to their children and are seeing the success rate are going to share with us as well, because this is an all-out war to stop the predators and the cradle snatchers. I'm saying these things because they are happening right under our noses. All of these people are everywhere that the people we trust to leave our children around, and we must be careful. Now, early childhood, children between the ages of 3 and 6, you must start to teach them in age-appropriate ways their body parts. You must teach them the body anatomy, starting by teaching children the names of the body parts, especially the private ones, the genitalia, the bathing suit parts, the places that you make them cover by putting on clothes. You need to make them understand the privates. You need to make them understand this and use age-appropriate language to teach this to them. And reinforce that nobody should touch their private parts. Not uncle, not auntie, not anybody. And the only reasons you are touching these parts is because they are bathing, or they need maybe a diaper change, or they need, or maybe they've done a number one or a number two. Maybe they've done a number one, which is pooing or peeing. That is the only time that people that you have authorized to touch them, whether in school, maybe they are caregivers in school, and or maybe their parents or people that you have authorized within your home to touch them in those places, only on occasion that they have been to the toilets, they've gone to the loo, they've done a number one or a number two. You must find age appropriate language to make them understand that if anybody is touching them in these places, when it is not that they've done the toilet or anything around that it is a bad touch. So you must start to set boundaries. I have a 2-year-old and she understands these boundaries already. So don't make the excuse that, this person is too young to understand these things. The world is not going to wait for you to take advantage. So please do the necessary of setting these boundaries right now. Today, start teaching your toddlers between the ages of 3 and 6 these boundaries. Set these boundaries and make them understand. Teach children that they have the right to say no if someone tries to touch them inappropriately or makes them feel uncomfortable. Encourage them to use their voice to express discomfort. My daughter's favorite word right now is no. And if you're trying to make her do something, even as simple as eating food, she starts to screech and scream and fight until you release her, and then she runs away. And these are things that we're starting to enforce just to protect her innocence and to keep her safe. And I'm thinking this is what we can do for our male children and our female children between the ages of 3 and 6. You would not, if you don't start to teach these boundaries, it would get to the point where people who see that you're not teaching these boundaries, God forbid, are around and they take advantage of a child. And the child doesn't even know to come to mommy and daddy to report it. And then maybe if mommy and daddy are not as attentive as they should be, probably because they are working too hard or because they have a business they have to run, and they leave these kids to the care of nannies and the likes, sometimes this is where the evil begins. While I'm not saying you shouldn't do your work and make the money and provide for your kids, I'm also saying that there needs to be some level of attention. At the weekends, every chance you get, teach boundaries to your children. Like I said, safe versus unsafe touches. Set boundaries. Stranger danger. Teach your kids not to talk to strangers and to seek help from a trusted adult if approached by someone they do not know. So when people start to, in fact, there's something that I noticed at some point that parents were writing their children's names on their school bags, on their backpacks, on their, they were wearing customized t-shirts and they have their names. In fact, they even have the names, like maybe you have a name you call your son or your daughter, a very fond name, maybe a nickname that you call them, and you have it at the back of their shirt. And the fact that the children probably don't even know the name is there. If a stranger sees that and calls them that name fondly, the children will respond. So parents, do not put your kids in danger in a bid to be fashionable or to be very, very, out there and woke, updated, and what's going on. Like, we've got the Yankee stuff going on right here. Like, we are Sojigon. No, don't put your kids in danger. Be very, very careful about this particular thing, because it's happening so much nowadays, and we can not be too careful. We have to do everything we can. We have to do everything we must to actually protect our kids in this very, very interesting times that we are right now. I'm going to be playing you a song right now by Omawumi. She calls this one If You Ask Me. Listen to the storyline of this song, that even sometimes parents have been found to do the unthinkable to their children. We are living in a very, very interesting society today, and we must all be careful to look out for the girl and boy child around us. When I come back from the break, I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to know what measures you are taking, or what measures you've taken as parents to protect your children of impressionable ages in the past. And when I come back, of course, I'll still be sharing some tips on how to set boundaries with your kids of all ages. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
If you ask me, now who I go out, no matter where we see, so it's ever start. No be me go talk, be heavy for mouth. If you ask me, take some action, I beg you, no delay. No make matters worse past as today. As today, if you ask me, now I go out. No matter where I see, so it takes time. Don't be my time.
Happen around you and you do not speak up, because don't just think of the person who was the victim first, also think of other people who might eventually become victims themselves, because you didn't speak up. So yes, he gets away with one, this person does it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 children, and he continues to get away with it because people don't speak up. Because nobody's saying anything, because we're looking at stigmatization, we're looking at the effects on the person, but the truth is the effects will be worse when the person grows up and remembers that, okay, nothing was done, this person is still walking freely, this person is still living their life like nothing ever happened, like they didn't destroy my childhood. And while we're talking about that and speaking up, and the phone lines are open right now, you could actually call 0805 092 0927, or you could call the number 0802 502 7711. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about predators on the prowl. Let's talk about how we could protect our children. If you are in a community and maybe you're building something around protecting the children as well, you're doing something, let's hear about it, because it is a menace that we must stop. And Super FM Lagos, we are lending our voice to this cause. We're saying enough is enough. No more. Our children will no longer be abused. We will not stand idly by while monsters take advantage of our kids and just cut away their innocence. Now, before I went on the break, I was telling you a few ways that you can actually prepare your toddlers or young kids of impressionable age on avoiding being abused. I talked about the fact that you should teach them their body anatomy, set boundaries, teach them about stranger danger. I said, don't write your kid's name on their backpack, don't write it on their water bottles, don't write it on their shirts while they're out in the public, because if someone who is a stranger just suddenly calls their name and they feel like, oh, this is a familiar person, that is some danger. So please do not expose your kids to that. Safe and unsafe touch. Help children understand differences between safe and unsafe touch, emphasizing that even someone they know, a family member, yes, an uncle, an aunt, that nanny that has been with them for years, should not touch them inappropriately. So where are the safe touches? A touch on the shoulder is still kind of safe, but if you're starting to touch my chest region and you're going towards my loins, you should tell your child to scream and hit the hand and raise an alarm. You're starting to touch me on my back and you're rubbing me and you're caressing my back or even caressing my shoulder. A part on the shoulder is okay, but caressing the shoulder and caressing the back and even touching the lower region of the back towards the buttocks is something that you should tell your children of very young age about, and tell them to say no and walk away from that person and report it immediately to mommy. Let that adult come and explain to you why they are touching your child that way. I like to make this example of my sister-in-law who called me a long time ago while I was still in the university and told me, I'm not saying you've done anything, but I don't want my daughters sitting on anybody's laps. So inclusive of uncles and aunties. Nobody should put them on their laps again. And this was because she had 3 daughters at the time and they were all very young, and she told us, please, I'm warning you beforehand, I know you've not done anything, I'm not saying you've done anything, but please, just so that they won't do this with people outside, I'm stopping it right here at home. So while we were visiting and we were excited to see our nieces and everything, we understood the boundaries early enough. And I'm thinking, well, while it seemed weird at the time, thinking back right now and seeing everything that is happening in the world, I think it's a very smart thing to do. Moving away from there, you need to start role-playing. Use role-playing games where you practice scenarios with your child so they know how to react in uncomfortable situations, e.g. say no or scream for help. So teach your children to say no. In fact, someone just sent a message and said you forgot to mention don't touch. Don't touch. And please, parents, always be around and always be attentive. When you see that your children are reacting in a certain way to some things, please start to follow up and see to it that action is stopped. There's another thing here that I want to share, and it's around middle-aged children, ages 7 to 12. Remember what we talked about was everything around children between the ages of 2 to 6. I said 3, but then you can start your children early, teaching them the anatomy and the bad and the good touch and safe touches and all of that, and how to react, how to scream, how to shout, and how to run away, and how to report to mommy and daddy when such things happen. You need to build that level of conversation early and let them know that they are always safe. Now, that's safe with mommy and daddy, by the way. Let's create that distinction. And then when it's starting to go out of hand, please follow up and do the necessary experience. It's not a shy conversation. If anybody's touching your child inappropriately, you deserve to call the person out and even arrest the person if need be. Let them go and answer in the coffers of the police why they are touching a toddler inappropriately. Yes, I'm calling for that. We need to be that direct with this. Now, middle-aged children between the ages of 7 to 12. These are children who understand life a bit more. Personal boundaries. Reinforce the importance of respecting their own body and other people's boundaries as well. So teach boundaries. As much as you are teaching your children between the age of 7 and 12 how to respect and know boundaries on their own bodies, you need to also teach that about other people's boundaries and bodies as well. So emphasize that they have control over their bodies and can decide who can and who can't touch them. In fact, it's a very interesting thing that at some point, my nephews and nieces that I used to bathe at some point, once they got to a certain age, we just knew that was not happening again. So you need to get to that point where it's supervised bathing until they now understand that, I'm doing this myself and nobody has to do this for me again. Increase knowledge of sexuality. At this age, between the ages of 7 and 12, children may begin to have questions about sexuality. Answer these questions honestly and in an age-appropriate way, stressing consent, respect, and boundaries. Please, I'm going to say this again. Between the ages of 7 and 12, build an understanding. Answer questions about sexual touches and whatsoever honestly and in age-appropriate ways, stressing consent, respect, and boundaries. Because if mommy didn't talk about it, they asked you don't know what is inspiring your child to ask these questions. And when they ask these questions, as much as possible, answer objectively so they could open up more about where the information is coming from. If your child is coming to ask you, so mommy, this happened with this person's body parts today, and you're like, where did you get that from? And you start to scold as your instinct would make you want to do. You have created a red flag in the mind of that child. When next they notice something, they will not come to you. And the truth is, they will go to other places to find answers. And I want to emphasize this as well. Be very conscious of what your children are watching on all of the streaming platforms and on TV and everywhere else. Be very conscious of what they watch, because some of those things are gradually being embedded, not even gradually, outrightly being embedded into certain animation and stuff. So, your child is about to throw on a TV show or is watching something on TV. Check the age appropriateness of that thing for how old they are, and start to attack those things earnestly. I'll be going on a quick break right now. When we come back, I'll be wrapping things up on Family Matters today. Like I said, this is a continuous conversation. It is not something that I think we would finish in 1 or 2 episodes. We will be revisiting this because our parents out there, our new parents and our young parents, need to be more careful, and we need to do better with protecting our children. I'll be right back.
As the years they go, we dey work for dough. Some days it's fast, some days it's slow. Many highs and lows, but we carry go. Nothing go stop our doing so. Now the night just spirit, yes we move. With family, there's love at home. We know say Christmas, it don't come over. Blow the trumpet, it parampe.
Hello, I go, go, go. Everywhere you go, go, go. Everybody go, lo, lo.